At the end of this book, I felt just as lost as Araya. And honestly, I think that's one of the biggest compliments you could ever give a book is like feeling that character's inner turmoil. And that's what this book did for me. Did someone say The Serpent and the Wings of the Night book review? No? Well, you're here. Hi everybody, and welcome to the second edition of Brenna's book review. I will say, the last book review that I recorded, I had read that book previously, like maybe like a week or two before I actually made the review. This review is fresh. She's fresh. I just finished this book last night. And what book, may you ask? What book am I reading? What book did I read? This book. I read The Serpent and the Wings of Night. I feel like I could never say that right just because like the calligraphy on the front of the book really confused me when I first picked it up. I was like, what is this book? This book is written by Carissa Broadbent. It's basically Hunger Games, but like vampire edition. And so like, who doesn't like that? You know? I got introduced to this book because I, again, saw it on TikTok and I wanted to see if it was good. And I will say, out of all the books I've read recently, this is definitely one of my faves. I would say maybe fave of 2026. Call me crazy, but I really enjoyed this book. I think I finished this book in like 3 days, 4 days. Mind you, I only ever read at night because I have so many things going on in my day-to-day that like nighttime is the only time I really get to consume books. And so the last 2 nights, it just had me in a grip. It's nearly like a 500-page book, I think, and I just like went through it so fast because it was like the pacing, everything, I just consumed it. It was great. Basically, this review is not going to be spoiler-free, but I will give you a little spoiler-free synopsis in case you're interested in reading it. I'll tell you right away, I liked this book. If you like Hunger Games, if you like fantasy, if you like a little bit of like, you know, fight to the death type things, you will enjoy the action, the fighting, like all of that is really, really good in this book. The book revolves around a human girl named Araya who got picked up by a vampire king who was just like, wow, this girl's just different. I'm just gonna pick her up out of this village and bring her into my house and like train her. And basically Araya, her life goal is to join this competition called the Kajari and get powers through this thing. She gets like bestowed by a goddess or something. That's like the goal. So that is the premise of the book. She joins the Kajari, and the whole book 1, we are just like in the Kajari with Araya as she's going through this experience. Yeah, that's basically the most spoiler free I can get. I will say there is, of course, a romance. The romance is pretty good. I would say slightly predictable, like who it's gonna be, but once you're in there, I was not mad about it. I thought it was a really good romance. So it was very much like, it was good vibes. And that is the end of my spoiler free. So from now on, cover your ears or read the book and come back and watch this later. Okay, here are my like sections. I will say my sections of likes for this book is much larger than my criticisms for this book. I enjoyed the book. It was like a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed the book. I think it was a good book. So my like number 1 is that the romance was built on actual substance. I feel like for me, it was so refreshing coming from some of the books that I've read where I feel like female main character, male main character just like fall for each other instantly, just instant connection, instant this. That book is not that. And I really, really liked that because it was like a breath of fresh air for me of like, wow, they're not immediately attracted to each other. They're not immediately like in love with each other. It grew over time. And I thought that was so nice, especially because like they didn't have to interact, but they did. And it was because of like Araya never mentioned anything about the main male character, Rain, his looks. And I really enjoyed that because most of the time it's like, oh my God, this man is so beautiful. It's so what? That was not even in her brain. And like, honestly, I liked that because she's in the middle of like some Hunger Game-esque type thing. You don't want to just like be thinking, oh, this man's so hot. She's not thinking about that. She's trying to survive. And the reason why they even get paired up together, the reason why they even work together is out of circumstance. And it's because they both had like extenuating circumstances where they're like, I don't really care about this person. I know I'm going to have to kill them, but like I have to pair with them or at least be in a group with them for now because it's the smartest strategic decision. And I loved that. Not like it's forced proximity, but with reason. With reason. I loved that. It was so good. So my like number 2 was the found family dynamic in this book. They're in the middle of the Kajari, this like deathly competition, and somehow the main character, Araya, gets this found family with these people in this apartment as they grow closer together through proximity because they're all locked in this apartment and everyone else wants to kill them, but like they are safe together. And I just thought that dynamic was so interesting to like watch them all test each other's boundaries, going like, are you going to kill me? Are you not going to kill me? And the trust gets built up slowly between all 3 of these people. Mish, Rain, and Araya, they all kind of work on that. And it's just like, I loved how different all the characters were. And the found family aspect of it was just so nice. Like it wasn't so much focused on romance, but rather just like, we're in this tough situation and we're in this together and we're slowly building trust with each other. And I loved that. Number 3, the thing that I really liked was Araya's relationship with her father. I think that it was a really complicated and complex situation for Araya. And in the beginning, you know, you just kind of take the word for whatever's happening and you're like, yeah, well, he's brutal, but he's a vampire. It has to be this way. And then you watch throughout the book as Araya meets Rain and talks to him and is like, wow, you can still remain human and you can still be compassionate while still being a vampire. And you don't have to be all of these things that my father is. And you watch her kind of battle with this of like, I found a new sense of morality, but I don't know what to do with it because I love my dad so much and yet I'm watching him do things that are horrible. And that just continues to grow and grow throughout the whole book. As Vincent does things that Araya starts realizing, like, I have boundaries now. I have these things I don't agree with. When he raises the whole city to the ground, you really watch her character struggle so much. And she finally confronts him and he hurts her. And it's like, you can see that there was a distinct separation because of the way that the author wrote it of like Vincent the king and Vincent, Araya's father. And like, what a complex way to write about a character that was so real, because in this world it really was dog eat dog and Vincent was simply playing his part into that. And then you watch as you know, Araya kind of plays into Rain's hand of agreeing with him to the point where she starts to disagree with her dad. And maybe you could say that she's distancing herself from the reality of this world. I mean, we don't know. The way that the book ended, you don't know if that's the case or not, but wow, what a complex, just like overall situation and to mess with. And I think that it added so much depth into the character because she loves this man and then she's frustrated because she loves her dad. Whoa, like loved. Such a good dynamic. Number 4, my like in this book was the ending gut punch that I never expected. I feel like when I read books like these, I always am like, okay, well, obviously the 2 main characters are going to make it out. Obviously Misha will be fine. Like, you know, it's to the death, but you know that they will all survive, right? But I was like, okay, but how? How are they going to survive? And in my own head, I was like, okay, well, maybe like the goddess will like take pity on them for being so in love and like to let them both be like a winner, right? Like Hunger Games, like, you know, Peeta and Katniss, they both made it out because like, oh, of situations, right? But that's kind of how I figured this was going to go because I'm like, well, they're so in love. Of course the world wouldn't be so unfair to people in love. No, that is not what happened. And I was like, oh my God, my mind was blown. Number 1, the fact that she kills him, right? Because what a complicated feeling of having to unpack that later. I literally killed the person that I loved. And then she gets her wish. And instead of wishing for anything for herself, all she can think of is Rain. And what really, really got me fired up about this book is it's like, why would she wish what she had wished? Because Araya easily could have just said, I wish that Rain was alive, right? Not like that he won the game. What an interesting way to give him all of the power to this person that you barely knew, but you thought you knew, you know? And what a dynamic, because when he comes back to life and he gets the air mark and then he immediately kills her father. Holy crap. Who could have predicted that? Because I didn't. I did not predict that that would happen, that Aramark would happen, that he would immediately kill her dad and then grab her and say some like nasty things to people, and my mind was blown. I was like, who was this person that I was invested in? Was he lying? Was he lying to Araya? Was he lying to me? Like, I was just as disoriented as her. I just had my heart broken because he just died. And I was like, oh my God, I'm sad. And then I'm like, wait, I hate him. What the heck? He just killed her dad with like no... And then to find out, you know, Araya gets the Aramark after that. So now they're not only did like he get the mark, but now she has the mark, and they're like diametrically opposed foes. Like, they are the opposites of each other. And holy crap, I think that dynamic is insane. I'm like, that dynamic I've never seen in a book. And the fact that in this book, this leads into my number 5. My number 1 My number one like for number 5 was that the gods are not on anyone's side. The gods in this book are extremely like pragmatic. They just like do whatever they want. It's not about like who's good and who's bad. And that is something that I don't see often in these fantasy books, is the playing between the good and the bad, and the moral and being moral, and what does that mean, and what does that look like in a world where vampires, you know, prey on people in order to survive. How does that look? In this book, these gods are agents of chaos. They create the chaos. The main goddess, I don't know how to say her name, but she grants this wish, and she tells Araya something about like, oh, your love can be your greatest heartbreak, and or like she was spared from the heartbreak of love because, you know, that's how love is. It's going to turn the knife. It's going to hurt you. And then you watch immediately as Rain betrays her and breaks her heart and kills the only person that she had left. Vincent was the only person that Araya had, and this man that she's known for, a month or two, he kills her. And now she doesn't even have anyone. She doesn't have the woman in the beginning, the human woman that she liked. She doesn't have Vincent anymore. Like, all of her parental figures are gone, and it's because of the person that she loved. It was directly his fault. What a crazy thing to have to navigate through. And I just... Like number 6 was the reading experience. I liked how fast-paced things were. I liked how I just like kept consuming things. I liked the fight scenes. I felt like they were really descriptive in a way that didn't make me feel lost. I really enjoyed that. And I think the slow burn was great. I think that we got to know Rain just as Araya did, and I liked their interaction back and forth. I liked their jokes. I liked the way they interacted with each other. I think it was really honest, and I liked that a lot. And it played with a lot of different themes of morality and justification, and that your one love can also be your biggest heartbreak and your biggest wound. And it left me feeling like, oh, how can she move on from this? How could she ever forgive him for that? Because even though Araya realized in the end that like her father was doing things that weren't okay, he was still her dad, and he was doing what he had to in this world to survive. And so I don't know how the writer is gonna fix this in the next book, but I'm really interested to see. I am definitely reading the next book. And here are my criticisms for the same book. There's not that many. I had way more things that were good to say rather than my bad. But I will say my criticism number 1 is that it leans into familiar tropes. I do think this book has some similar tropes of like every romantasy book has the same ones. It just wasn't, I would say like for the first 3/4 of the book, extremely predictable. I wasn't very surprised. Of course, like the actual fighting circumstances, I couldn't predict those, but I knew that they were always going to make it out. You know, she'd be fine. It was predictable. It was at the last half that I feel like my brain really got like warped and changed. And I think that's something that happened to me in A Court of Thorns and Roses. And that's something I just really, really like, is that switch of like, you've thought this whole thing the whole time. Now it's completely turned on its head. And how are you going to manage that? And I feel like this book did that for me. Number 2 criticism, and the last one, is that I felt like the side characters that weren't Mish, Rain, or Araya, I just feel like their stories weren't elaborated on enough. Especially towards the end, there was like Angelica and the other like guy who was, you know, kind of an underdog through the whole book. I know we learned a little bit about them, but I just felt like because they had been locked in this apartment the entire competition, they never really had the chance to get to know any of their other competitors. And I think that was kind of a disservice in the book, because this wasn't like a Hunger Games thing where they were all thrust into this competition with absolutely no choice of their own, but rather they all elected to go into this knowing that they would die, mostly, unless they won. And so I was very curious to see, like, okay, what about Angelica? Was she always with, I think, Ivan, the guy she came with? Was that always the case, or did that grow throughout the competition just like Rain and Oriah had? And why were they there, and what was their goal? What did they want? Because I think that was just a missed thing of, like, I wanted more humanity for these deaths. I felt like the deaths just happened and that I didn't get to know any of the contenders, whereas I think in some scenes we could have learned more about the other people that weren't the main characters. That was one of the main things that I was like, I just wish we knew a little bit more, so the killing felt a little bit more genuine when it did happen. Because at the end, you know, the crippled guy, he said, like, I wanted it to be you. And I think that moment was really interesting, because his story, his character was the only one who had any kind of backstory or like anything. And Oriah really resonated with him because they felt like kindred spirits. And I really would have liked to see more of that with the other characters, and not just him, but like a little bit more with other characters. Overall, I never give books a perfect reading. I am the biggest critic. But I would say, when I read this book, when I finished it, I gave it a 5 out of 5. And I will say now, as I'm sitting here, I would give this a 4.5 stars out of 5. I can't rate anything a solid 5, I never do, but I really like the book. I think that it got me out of like a book, like something. I was just very stuck in these like one books where it was just like a single book and then being done with them and not really wanting to read more. This book actually sold me on book 2. And I bought it immediately and started reading, and I couldn't wait to see how this story progressed, because it's not just like, oh, now the two main characters are in love and they're going to be happy ever after and like fix everything. No, like they have a lot of work to do if they're going to be together, and I have to forgive him for what he did, and so does Oriah, and it's like very, very interesting. I can't wait to see how things play out. I know that this is a pretty big series, and I understand why there's hype, because it was very good. And the spice, what can a girl ask for? It was pretty good. It took a long time to get there, but I feel like it's one of the only books where the payoff was actually worth the waiting, whereas like the other books I've read, payoff did not match my waiting. Let me know if you're gonna read this book too, or if you have read this book, let me know what you think. Do you like this book? Was it one of your faves? Is it like top books for you? I feel like this one's kind of like, this is my top book of 2026. Very much enjoyed. Anyway, thank you guys for listening. Let me know if you guys want to see more reviews, or if you liked this book review, and let me know what you think down in the comments below. And I hope you guys have a great week. Read more books, read some more romantasy, give me some recommendations, and let me know how your week is going.